Hello, Bells Up Studio, and welcome to today's 3-bell maximum strength set. We're going to be working for 20 minutes today, and you actually will only really need 2 kettlebells for the class. If you have access to dumbbells, this is a dumbbell-friendly session, so no worries there. We're going to go through a guided warm-up. It's a pretty short warm-up today where we'll focus a lot on our hips and our mid-back, and then we're going to hit some double suitcase hold split squats. You also have the option, if you have more equipment, to have your back foot elevated. You can take the version of the split squat that you prefer the most. We're going to do some push-ups with your hands on your kettlebells, your dumbbells, or you could even use a bench if you're working for that variation, and some quadruped pull-throughs. So some core, some chest, a little bit of arms, upper body, and hitting those split squats, which can be the heaviest thing of the day if you have, again, access to some heavy weights. So let's go ahead and start out with some quadruped scapular depression. So I'm going to come into a quadruped position. So it's your tabletop position, toes curled under, shoulders over wrists, knees underneath your hips. You can start by just squeezing your shoulder blades together and letting your chest gently drop to the floor, and then breathing out, pushing your upper back away. So this is kind of like a cat-cow. You can also try bending a little bit further down here, almost like a push-up, and then coming up. You can also try knees off the floor and doing that same thing. So a little lower or a little higher. So I call this a couple different things. It's like an advanced cat-cow or just a regular cat-cow or like a scapular push-up in the quadruped. Start the variation if you haven't that works best for you. And we're going to hang out here about another 30 seconds. So the whole goal is to think of your shoulder blades coming together on the down phase and then your upper back spreading and pushing away on the up phase. And this is what you really should feel when you're coming down for a push-up. You can even bring your arms out a little bit into the position you would do for a push-up with your elbows going back to 45 degrees and really practice how that feels. If, again, you need to keep your knees down, go for it here. But we're really just trying to get our back muscles moving in this variation. You have about 10 seconds here, and then we're going to take some half kneeling windmills. You can either do these body weight, or you can add your kettlebell or dumbbell. Just make sure that it feels light to moderate for this. It's going to give you a little bit of stability, but if you haven't done it with weight before, I would highly suggest trying it without for the first time you're doing it. You've got 3, 2, and 1. So for the half kneeling windmill, you're going to bring 1 foot forward. So your body is in a half kneeling position, knee over your ankle, back leg. You want your hip over your knee. Your arm will come up on the same side that you have your front leg forward. You're going to think of, you can actually do this with me, taking your opposite hand, pushing it into your hip and turning your turning your belly button towards your front leg. So you're getting this little rotation. So I'm thinking of almost pushing my hip back. I'm imagining this front leg is against a wall and I'm not going to shoot my hip into it. Go ahead, bring your weight up if you're going to try this weighted, and you're going to shift, rotate, and then come down towards the floor. Your hand can come to the instep of your front foot. It can also come to a prop if you have a yoga block or something that'll let you come up a little bit higher if dropping to the ground here is not for you. When you're coming up, your arm needs to stay straight and in line with your ear. So you don't want your arm traveling out to the side like this as you come up. And this is one of the harder parts of the windmill. You have to control your core, control your upper body as you're really isolated and moving from your hips. You've got 15 seconds in this variation, and then we're going to take your opposite side with your kettlebell or your dumbbell if you're doing that, or you can continue with body weight. I'm just going to show you guys both versions here so you can see keeping the arm straight, keeping it in line with your wrist over shoulder and knuckles to the ceiling can be quite hard when you have a weight. Let's go ahead, bring your weight down. We're going to try your other side here. So go ahead, come into position. Opposite leg is forward. You can bring it up with an assisted press if you're using a weight or body weight. You guys know what to do. So I'm going to shift my hip, bring my hand down to the ground. It should be instep level, and my gaze should be up towards my hand or my weight. One reason I recommend starting this with body weight is if you get to the bottom and you're not quite sure the position that you're in, if you're using body weight, you can do this safely looking down towards your hand just to see where it lands. So sometimes if you're a visual learner, maybe you're like, I don't know where I am in space, don't use a weight at first and play around with the variation because you can have a little bit of liberties with your eye gaze goes. If you do have a weight, you're going to have more stability if you keep your eye on it, so you're able to keep that arm straight. Don't take it off. That sense of where the bell is will be a lot easier if you're looking at it, so you won't lose control of it as easily as if you were looking somewhere else. So try to really keep your gaze focused on the weight if you're using it. You're in your last few seconds here of this half kneeling windmill. Let's go 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Weights can come off to the side. We're gonna hit some intervals today. So we have a 40-second on interval, 20 seconds off for 3 rounds. We have double suitcase hold split squats. And when you come into your split squat, you can actually be in that half kneeling windmill stance at the bottom. Today, we're gonna go for keeping our shin parallel heel. So we don't want our knee coming forward like this. Sometimes we do different versions of split squats, but today we're going to try to keep this straight up and down motion in the split squat. Of course, you can move your feet around if you need to for width or also proximity, but let's really try to focus on a straight shin here. When you're holding your weights, you'll ideally start on the floor like I am and then just push yourself up to standing. We're trying to keep our shoulders over hips as we do this and keep the weight in the front part of our foot, in the ball of our foot, in the sole of our foot as we move up and down. You'll do your first side double suitcase hold, and then we'll go into push-ups with our hands on our kettlebells, a bench, even the floor if hands on bells or hands on dumbbells doesn't feel like a good variation for you. We're going to hit our second side of split squats after that, and then go to quadruped pull through. So you'll use one of your weights. It's going to be off to the side. You're going to come into your quadruped position and reach through, pull the weight across. I really want you guys to think of a big reach and a rotation to move the weight really far away. So we're not just kind of like gripping and setting it down a few inches. I want you to move that weight as far as you can, keeping your knees off the floor as you do it. Again, this whole class can be done with dumbbells if you don't have access to kettlebells. Go ahead and get your equipment out and ready, and we will get started right away with our interval sets. Let's go ahead and bring our bells out. We're gonna start out with our split squats. Remember, we're gonna try to start on the floor. You can do whatever leg you want forward. We're just gonna do the opposite leg when we get there. Let's go ahead and hold on to your weights at your side. Stand up in 3, 2, and 1. And so why do I have you in this position to start instead of standing? It gives you a little bit of a sort of like preview of your range of motion. So ideally we want to try to go knee all the way to the floor and then push through that front foot to come up. If you can get into this position, this is a great place to be here. If you can't get into this position, you're going to go as far as you can down to the floor. I would say if you're not moving more than a few inches, you've got about 5 seconds here. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Come down to the floor because in 20 seconds we're going to start your push-ups. If you're only moving a couple inches, you might have too heavy of a weight. So you want to be able to get a good range of motion through the entirety of the movement. You can put something underneath your knee to bring the floor up to you to make it a little easier to touch if you can't quite get there without something there. Let's go ahead, hit your push-ups of choice in 3, 2, and 1. So as you do this, I want you to imagine your upper back muscles squeezing together like we did in that short warm-up and then pushing away as you come up. Your body should feel like it's in a plank position. And if you're elevating yourself like I am here, you don't want to drop down your shoulders like this. We don't want to round them. So wherever you stop, being able to keep your shoulders locked into place, that's where I want you to be. You're going to be in your push-ups here for 10 more seconds. So if you hit a max where your form starts to degrade and feels kind of like stuff's going wrong, maybe your neck's absorbing too much, I want you to stop there and rest the entirety of the interval from that point. You've got 3, 2, and 1. We're going to go back to your split squats, this time on your opposite side. So start lining yourself up here. And if again, you feel pretty good where you're more comfortable standing and putting your foot back, try that, but also see if you can really align yourself on the floor or with where your prop should be under your knee before you start. Let's pick up your bells in 3, 2, and 1. So this first round, just know that we have 3 full intervals of these sets, and I want you to try to work as much as you can through the entirety of the interval. So you're going to grab weights here that you feel pretty comfortable with holding, moving up and down in this position for the entirety of the set. If you need a break, you can rest on the floor, you can rest at the top just like this. We're going to try to keep the gaze straight ahead and push through your front foot. So something to watch for here. Are you moving your foot around? Try to push the whole thing down and don't let it move. You've got 3, 2, and 1. Very good. We have our quadruped pull throughs coming up for your first set. So I'm going to bring that bell off to the side slightly. Remember, I want a big reach. So you don't have to feel super stiff in this position. You don't have to feel like you're moving robotically. I want you to kind of reach through, and that means your hips are dipping and getting a little off center. That's totally fine. We want that nice rotation and pull across the bot. Let's go ahead and go in 3, 2, and 1. So we're gonna lift ourselves up here, really pull and move that thing around. You can widen your stance too here. This is more about your core, your back, getting some movement in this than it is about really staying stiff and trying to like just barely move across the floor. I want you to get that good length in this one. You've got about 5 seconds left here in these quadruped pulls, and if the pulling is too much for you, guess what? You're just gonna hold this position for 4, 3, 2, and rest. We've made it through 1 round of our sets today. You have 2 more full rounds to go in our sets. I might sneeze for a second. Keep resting. We're gonna breathe through it. You know, as you guys can see, I'm out in the wilderness for our sets in these particular videos in this challenge. So you never know. You never know what's going to happen. We could have like a deer wander through. I could have an allergy attack. All the things are on the table. Let's go ahead and go your second round. 3, 2, and 1. So this is your first side of your split squat. What do you do if your knee's traveling forward like mine is and my shin isn't totally parallel? You go with it. Maybe that feels more comfortable for you. So part of these classes is getting sort of comfortable with your body and finding out the variations that work best for you. So as I said, some people might prefer having their foot in a little bit and coming forward here. As long as you're not hinging your hips back like this, we want to try to keep our shoulders over our hips today and really emphasize our quad a bit more. Some of you might find that having your foot farther back like I do here feels really good. Some of you might find it to be really uncomfortable. You've got 3, 2, and 1 because we have a lot of flexion in our foot. It's bending back like this. If that's you, this could be a good version to do with shoes. Okay, hands can be on your bells. Hands can be on the floor. Hands can be on a bench. We're gonna hit push-ups round 2. If you're using bells, try to turn them at the angle that your hands are. So the bells aren't straight and your elbows going one direction. You want a nice line here. So just make that happen and really push them down. You've got 3, 2, and 1 regular push-ups. I would be here doing the same thing. So one of the biggest things with push-ups that I see people make as a mistake is setting their butt back too far and then trying to kind of do them like this, leaving the booty up in the air too much. We want to be forward into our hands. And sometimes practicing them with a prop like your kettlebells, you can really push down into the ground. You don't have any pressure on your wrist because you're gripping onto something. So you don't have, again, that flexion in your hand. You've got 3, 2, and 1. And sometimes this can be an ideal setup if you do have those wrist problems in your push-ups. I would also say too, if you're on a bench or you're elevating yourself, think about aiming your belly button towards the edge versus aiming your chest to the edge. And that'll prevent that crunching that happens sometimes in the neck if we position ourselves too far back. Let's go ahead and do split squats in 3, 2, and 1. So this would be, I could start standing, bring myself back, and then start here. And this version works if you feel pretty body aware in your positioning. Maybe you've been doing these for a really long time. You're pretty confident in stepping back with the weights that you have, but I do want you to make sure you're going full range of motion. The benefit of starting at the bottom is you can really see the knee over the ankle just like so, and then come up. That first rep really sucks though. I have tendency to want to roll to the outside of my foot on my right side because I have a little tighter foot here, like my muscles contract a little bit more. You've got 3, 2, 1, and rest. And or just a little tighter, so my right toe doesn't bend quite as well as it should. I'm working on the mobility there. So I want to turn off. I really work on spreading my toes in this one and trying to think of pushing down that center part of my foot like I'm trying to push actually something down on the floor. Okay, quadruped passes. Let's go for your second round in 3, 2, and 1. So we'll lift up here, pass it through. If you've been doing these a while in Bells Up Studio classes, these are definitely a favorite because we can get some good core work with this one in a position that we do often, and we really can feel a lot of work in our obliques. Go heavier. If you've been using the same weight for a long time, this is your cue that you probably could lift one that's a little bit bigger here. You've got another 5 seconds. Push down in that quadruped. Don't lose your core, even though we're really getting that long reach. You've got 3, 2, and 1. We have 1 more set to go in our final set in class today. So come into position with your split squats. Let's go ahead and bring that foot forward. Something that, speaking of toe stuff, if you have foot goals for mobility, which can really help your lifting, especially if you do it barefoot like I do a lot. We'll go 3, 2, and 1. Something that you can do in this one is to think about your feet when you're standing barefoot, spreading out your toes and almost kneading the floor, kind of like you would see a cat, kind of like kneading a blanket. If you're doing that, you're gonna get some good stretch through your foot. So that's one way. You'd kind of like spread them like this and then just practice like kneading the floor. One good way to get some nice stretch through the muscle, break up some of that fascia in your foot. You could even use a lacrosse ball to kind of roll the edges and break up some of that stuff. You've got 3, 2, and 1. You're like, Lacey, why are you rambling about feet? Feet are important. They can really dictate a lot of your positioning just walking in life. So if you notice that on one side, maybe you lean more to one side than the other, could explore if your feet are feeling tight, if your muscles are feeling tight there. Okay, let's go ahead and go into your push-up set. Last set of these, bells come in front of you. We'll go 3, 2, and 1. So we're pushing down, elbows are coming back, you're pushing away, keeping your chin tucked as you do this. Normal for your chest to be a little higher, obviously, if you're using a prop like this. So you're not gonna think of, you might actually have diminished range of motion here. Maybe you don't go down quite as far, but keep your core tight so we're not letting our butt drop. And that goes for if you're doing these on your hands or if you're going for the elevated version in the front. You've got 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. We're gonna hit split squats round 2. So we're gonna go front foot forward. Let's go ahead and come into position here. Move that front foot into that forward position with spread toes. Let's go ahead and get set up to bring our weights up in that suitcase hold position. Shoulders roll back. Let's go 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So we're coming all the way up. If your feet kind of move a little bit, this is that side for me that I have to really adjust myself. Push them down. Find your spot before you start moving. So don't move into an unstable position. Really ground it down and then start that up and down. Shoulders stay over your hips here. Gaze is slightly forward, and I'm almost thinking of leaning my back knee in slightly as I do this. So just straight up and down. Breathe in through the nose, breathe out through the mouth. You guys have less than 5 seconds in this one. I know we have a lot of toes bending back in this class. You've got 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So I hope at the very least here, you've got a really nice stretch for your feet. Okay, let's go ahead and come over your bell. We're going to roll the shoulders back here. Get ready to find that strong quadruped position to execute these pull-throughs. If you need to, knees can stay on the ground for a little bit, but I want you to try to lift them. Let's go 3, 2, and 1. So you could start here, moving your weight through. I definitely feel this in my core, but it's a little more intense, obviously, if your legs are up because we're taking some of the stability away here. So you really have to ground down through your opposite hand when we take that stability away by bringing your knees off the floor. You can't really cheat it at all, but we all are going to start at one spot. So if the knees up is a little too much, bring them down and practice that reach. Try to really pull it through. You've got another 5 seconds here. We'll go 4, 3, 2, and 1. You guys are finished with your strength set today. This one is a quick and like probably not the sweatiest one you've ever done, but can be just what you needed if 20 minutes is it. If you want to continue this class, you can repeat this program for up to 3 more rounds, maybe some of you up to 4 more rounds, just to double the time here and make it a little more lengthy of a session. Just make sure that you feel like your form isn't degrading. And I will see you guys in your next Bells Up Studio class. Remember to get real, get strong, and get your bells up. Bye.